Hi, I'm Jennifer Montgomery, a Rotary Peace Fellow from Makerere Peace Center in Uganda.
Hello, I am Larry Lunsford. I'm from the Kansas City, Missouri area and honored right now to be serving as President-Nominee of Rotary International. Looking forward to serving as President in the 2027-2028 Rotary year.
Well, one thing that we can talk about is the fact that we're both from the Kansas City area, which is a nice coincidence.
Yes.
Good Midwestern folks
Yes.
doing Rotary good things.
Yes, and
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that because we're all proud of where we come from,
Yes.
but I am certainly honored to be selected as president, but looking forward to representing the Midwestern United States principles and ethics and just the way we go about things.
Absolutely.
It really is something that resonates with me, so I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yes, I think it's an important frame to our conversation as well. So I would like to ask you about how you became involved in Rotary. I know you started as a scholar in Australia. What about that experience kind of made you a Rotarian for life?
Well, I benefit from Rotarians in local clubs who knew about the programs of the Rotary Foundation and thought that I might be a good candidate for the Ambassadorial Scholar experience. So I'm grateful to those Rotarians who made that connection, but primarily because they knew about the great programs of our foundation. Had the opportunity to go to Australia for 9 months as a graduate student. And you asked, well, what made that something that resonated for life? Everyone comes to Rotary and hopefully Rotary Club membership in their own way, Jennifer, but for me, I really don't feel like I had a choice, with a 9-month daily international immersion in Rotary. It left a lasting imprint. I came back, I started my career as a CPA in public accounting, and about 6 or 7 years later, found the time and took the time to find a Rotary Club. But I always knew from the moment that I was serving Rotary as an ambassadorial scholar that this was something that I wanted to spend a little more time around, and it's been an amazing, amazing journey.
Right.
And I really have the same question for you at some level, which is, I'm intrigued as you had probably started some level of your career, how then you engaged with our Peace Fellowship and what it's kind of led to in terms of your next steps in your journey.
Right. So I was actually working in the government for the state of Kansas, doing anti-human trafficking work for the Attorney General's office in our state. And I was giving a talk in Abilene, Kansas. And a Rotarian who was in the audience after my talk came up to me and said, "Do you know about the Rotary Peace Fellowship?" And I did not. And he said, "I think you would be a fantastic candidate. Can I send you some information?" So we exchanged cards or details, and he really pushed me to consider this. He also connected me to Summer Lewis, who you know, who is a Peace Fellow from Kansas as well.
Yes.
There are 4 of us, who she and her sister also encouraged me, and they kind of mentored me through the process. But it was a Rotarian in Kansas who heard me speak and thought I might be a good candidate. So that actually encouraged me to apply. And the interesting thing about that is that I applied the first time and did not get selected.
Yes.
And between the time that I had applied and the second application, Makerere opened. And that sealed it for me because I had been doing work in Rwanda. I had gone on a mission trip in 2017, training some missionaries on how to work with people who are traumatized, post-genocide communities. So I had already started my work in Africa, and I really wanted to see what I could do. I had this vision for working with vulnerable populations in Africa that began as a child. I was really fascinated by Africa, and my family really had no explanation for this. So when this happened, I felt like, honestly, it was a God message.
Yes, the stars were aligning.
Please apply again, which I did, and I was selected and got to go to Makerere.
That's beautiful. One thing that brings to mind as we think generally about the element of our Peace Fellow program in Rotary's overarching peace building efforts is that it is an extremely competitive
Yes, it
Peace
is.
Fellow opportunity. So congratulations to you for that selection. I'm actually inspired by the elements of your story, of the connection to Africa, the alignment that eventually came, even after one time of trying and coming back, and in the middle of that, the new program. So it does seem like the stars were aligned, but it gives us a great sense of pride as Rotarians to have such a program that's so well acknowledged. And we're giving these days about 120 of those fellowships each year and close to 1,000 applicants. So I think those that are having the opportunity to share with us here should know that your story reinforces the significance of what we've grown with the value of our Peace Fellowship.
And I know, thank you very much for those kind words. And I know that you were on the committee, or you chaired the committee for Peace Centers about the same time that I was selected. 2021 was when I began my fellowship. How do you think the program has grown or changed since you were intimately involved in that role?
Well, I'll take that back even a little bit further. I did have the privilege of serving for 2 years on the Peace Centers Committee, and at some level, in terms of member engagement, it seemed like the perfect slotting for me as I was journeying through international leadership, having been a part of one of the prior educational programs. To be able to practice that discipline, selecting the Peace Fellows was fantastic, and I did chair the selection of the 20th class, which was a milestone at some level. But I wanted to go back just briefly. Being in Kansas City, there was a particular international leader, a former past director named Dick Burnett, and he was from the Kansas City Rotary Club, actually. And Dick was was in the early conversations as Rotary was developing how it might place a further footprint on its efforts toward peace. There was a time in the late 1990s where Rotary felt like we'll build our own Peace University, the bricks and mortars, and that was a clear indication of how significantly we wanted to play in this environment, for sure, Jennifer. Yet those conversations kind of led to what we now know to be our Peace Fellows program, where we decided not to get into the brick and mortar business of this effort, but to partner with these great universities around the world. And we started in the early 2000s with those 6 universities for the master's degree program, which now is the 5 universities that continue with us now some nearly 25 years later, and we are looking forward to the 25th anniversary of this program. But seeing, kind of being around Dick and being around the conversations and moving through the Rotary journey, I've kind of been connected with the Peace program even before really getting connected with it. My background as a foundation beneficiary also draws me to this without question. And so then to touch and feel some of those 600, 800, 1,000 applications and find those candidates like yourself who are those ambassadors that we're looking for is a tremendous process. So to have been a part of it recently in that way, and then to immediately journey to being a trustee of the Rotary Foundation, where we were making key decisions about the program and choosing to grow the program, has been a real pleasure as well. And we are nearly finished with a growth plan of the Peace Fellows program. 2 final points to make about that. First, it shows how much we believe in the success of the program to take the decision to grow it to another 4 places around the world over this decade that we're now in. And as many know, but want to be sure they know, we have 1 more spot in the world in Latin or South America.
That's very
exciting. And we're about to take on that challenge of finding that. So this journey's been special for me, and I'm thrilled with where we are today on the cusp of a 25th anniversary. Now, I feel like, I know you a little bit, but I think we should develop more this connection of the work that you were doing in Kansas, at the state of Kansas that you mentioned, and now the work that you're doing with the experience of the Peace Fellowship.
Yes.
Can you talk through
Absolutely.
how one has helped the other
Yes.
to get you where you are today?
It's a very interesting story. You know, I was working in that position and took a leave of absence to go to Uganda for the fellowship. And during our fellowship, we do a social change initiative. And so we have to focus on a very specific project and do research. It's an academic program. So during my fellowship, we went out on some field site visits, and one was to an informal settlement or slum community in Kampala. Very urban, very high poverty, high conflict, just an incredible place with so many challenges. And as we walked through this community for 2 or 3 hours on foot, at the end, they had certain groups of residents speak to us. And there was a group of women who worked in the brothel. This group of women were telling these stories of how they were experiencing unsafety even during the day. At night, they were working in the brothel not because they wanted to, but because they had to feed their children, many of whom were conceived through rape or sexual violence.
My goodness.
So these women were telling these stories, and I'm sitting there as a professional who works in the gender-based violence prevention and anti-trafficking field, and I am just, my rage is growing that there is no protection of vulnerable women and their children from perpetrators who are showing up on motorcycles in this very vulnerable community. So immediately I started asking questions during this conversation. Afterwards, the women circled me and started praying that I would help them get out of the brothel, because they said that you understand us, you know what we're talking about, can you please help us? So at that very moment, I decided to change my project for the fellowship and focus on this group of women. And I decided to research the drivers of this kind of sexual violence in this community. We need to figure out what is causing this. We learned food insecurity. We learned lack of employment or training or education. Many girls and women are no longer able to go back to school after they become pregnant. Interrupted education, no skills, all psychosocial, mental health challenges. So I decided to do my initiative on using art. I'm an artist. So I use art to build peace through helping these women heal from the trauma that they've experienced in their community. So we had a 4-day workshop. After we did some of the healing work with art, we then talked about hopes and dreams for the future. What kind of life do you want to have? Long story short, this led to me forming an NGO or a nonprofit organization with a fellow who was Ugandan in my fellow cohort. We formed Magenta Girls Initiative, which is a nonprofit helping women and girls get skills and education so they can live up to their potential. So now we have a crisis center in the community. We still work in this community. We are on our 4th Rotary Global Grant.
That's exciting.
We've had success skilling these women, giving them the support they need. And we are about to start our 4th in maternal child health. And our dream is to set up a vocational skills training center and counseling center for these women in this community. None of that would have been possible without my experience as a Rotary Peace Fellow at the Peace Center in Uganda. And the Rotarians, who were my host counselors during that time, are now on my board of directors. So it's quite a story.
The beauty of Rotary.
Quite a story.
The beauty of Rotary. I have 2 quick follow-ups.
Yes.
The first, why Magenta? What's the significance of Magenta?
Well, as I mentioned before, I'm a person of faith. And I woke up one night in the middle of the night and I heard in my mind, Magenta House. Magenta House. And so we named it Magenta Girls Initiative. Magenta House is this dream. It's our center. Magenta House will be our center for at-risk women in this community. That's all. That's my best explanation for it. It just was a message and I followed it.
The other follow-up very quickly builds on a point I think we've already made, but I want to accentuate it. And that is, you asked me, what do you see as the benefit of the program and how it's evolving? And then your story and it without the opportunity for anyone, and then for you, for the Peace Fellowship, to put you in that place, to put you in that moment that you so clearly described, where it changed the arc of what you wanted to do, is as clear an answer as one could give. about why Rotarians should be supporting
What's
this Peace
the
Fellow
value
program.
of this program?
What is the value? Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful story.
Yes. So as you step in to your leadership year, which is coming very soon.
Very soon.
How do you see Peace Fellows like myself and my colleagues here connecting with Rotarians on collaboration, collaborative projects? What are the things that you would like to see moving forward? If you could move the Peace Fellow program forward post-fellowship, what are some things that you think would be inspirational and high impact change from your perspective as a leader?
Yes, and I have given this some thought. The first thing that comes to mind is to state clearly that there is work to be done post-fellowship. I kind of characterize that, Jennifer, as our Rotary family, Rotarians in clubs around the world need to be viewing you and your other Peace Fellow alumni not as just alumni,
right,
but as collaborators.
Yes.
So I start with that because I have a real desire to see that transition continue. I feel like we're in a pretty good place for a launching point for that. An example like here in this Peace Park at the convention is an excellent example. But another example I can speak directly to is that in a few months, in January of 2027, I'll be bringing the district governors-elect at that time, who will be serving with me on the team as I serve with the Rotary World as president. We'll be bringing them to the International Assembly in Orlando, Florida. And we've noticed conflict being something more evident even in our own Rotary world and in our own Rotary clubs, to the point that we've said we should consider a learning module for our incoming leadership across the world in conflict resolution and prevention. And who better than to help guide district governors-elect through those efforts than Peace Fellows. So that's another tangible
idea.
And I think there are many more ideas like that. And I'm an advocate, obviously, as a beneficiary of our educational programs, now with the beauty of our Peace Fellow programs, but identifying that there is a need for better engagement with Peace Fellows and the skill sets they have and the projects they're working on, and a better connection to Rotary clubs to further those for larger impact. So I'm committed to that. That's a part of my vision in a specific sense, to build on the vision in a broader sense, to just helping Rotarians continue the great momentum we have, that we are becoming a stronger force in the world in the peace building efforts. Let me finish the answer in this moment by saying that I think it's a tremendous opportunity right now that Rotary has and that Rotary Peace Fellows can help us with. There's just a lot of stuff going on in the world right now.
It's a tough time in the world, but it's an opportunity for peace. It's an opportunity for Rotary's vision of peace and all of us as practitioners to show up and to be present and to insist that peace is part of the conversation.
We need to have discerning conversations, as you mentioned, of how Rotary can fill these additional gaps. You know, I mean, the term of a gap filler is something that I kind of carry with me because I feel like that's what Rotary does. Certainly that's what you're doing in your work. I'm so thrilled for the opportunity that we've had.
Yes.
And to know another tangible example that you've taken back to the state of Kansas in this particular case, accentuating your work in an environment in human trafficking, let's be honest, where there's much work to be done, and Rotary starting to find its place in that work.
It's very true. And I'm glad that Rotarians are tuned into this issue, and I've had the opportunity to speak to many of them and offer any expertise and advice that I can. So that's exciting too, to see Rotary take that on. It's a tough issue for people to learn about. It's a tough issue for people to talk about.
Kudos to you, Jennifer, truly. And I hope in my opportunity for leadership that
Yes. I
that
hope we
that
can
we can
continue to work
we can
together.
continue the conversations,
Yes.
continue to work together, and improve the places where Peace Fellows can really help us make a
Wonderful.
difference.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Larry, for
you.
your time.
What a privilege.
Yes, thank you.
Goodbye to everyone.
Bye.
Bye now. Thank you so much.